Welcome here to the wonderful Silverstone circuit for round number 1 of the WEC Classic Series here for what is going to be a fantastic season of competition. There is no doubt. Hosted, of course, by Aztec Racing for this season of competition. We have a full grid of drivers signed up and ready to go. 28 LMP1 machines are ready to go fighting it out in the top class today. Then we have our LMP2 Classic machines, of course. It is running the wonderful machines that we've seen in years gone by inside those HBD machines. And then we have our fantastic GTE class as well, our slowest of the 3 classes, but 3 very, very big grids, well, a whole big grid of drivers, or 3 grids ready to go in their 3 separate classes. This should be a great evening of competition, and what a calendar we have lined up for you for this one here at Silverstone. For the first of 8 rounds, we head to Spa for round number 2 on the 14th of March, and then we go to the one, the only Le Mans for March 21st for round number 3. These machines are going to be absolutely beautiful. Of course, we did a Christmas event just before the new year where we took the LMP1s and the GTEs around Le Mans. This time we're adding that HBD, the LMP2 Classic class, in this season. We then go to Nürburgring, the GP loop, on April 4th, and we go on to April 11th at Mexico. Circuit of America, our schedule showing an incorrect date. We do apologize for that, but we do head then across to the Circuit of the Americas on April the 18th. We head there, and finally we go across to Fuji on May 9th. And Daytona will round out the championship on May 16th. It is going to be an absolutely brilliant event from start to finish. And for the first time tonight, we will welcome you to the commentary booth here on Joseph Wright Broadcasting. We hope that you are having an absolutely amazing evening and you are prepared for this one. I certainly am. It is going to be an absolutely extremely fun race, seeing these classic machines out there once again. The LMP1s, very fast, very fun, and should be interesting to see them fight around such an iconic circuit. Then, of course, we had the HBDs in the LMP2 Classic machine, and that is going to be an interesting class. It is the smallest of the 3 classes. However, it doesn't mean by any stretch of the imagination that it is going to be a class where there's no racing. In fact, I'm looking at the timings now, and in qualifying, the top 3 drivers in our LMP2 Classic are separated by 0.172 of a second at the moment. Then we head down in, obviously, those GTE machines, a variety heading out there. You've got the BMWs, you've got the Chevrolets, you've got the Ferraris out there as well. So having the variety of GTE machines is going to be interesting. Of course, GTE used to be the cars that went on to these endurance races. They did Le Mans, they did those 6, the 12, the 24-hour races. Now, however, they're completed by GT3 machines. The GT3 machines are capable and fully capable of doing those races. So it's nice to see these GTE machines seeing the breath of fresh air out on the track again. It is going to be absolutely Beautiful. Now, I'm ready to get down onto the racing circuit for this one because it is a full grid of drivers right now. 19 LMP1s have managed to put in a lap time in this qualifying session. 7 LMP2 Classics and 6 GTEs. That's not all our drivers, though. There are still a few without lap times on the board. Now, the way that this event gets sorted out, we are going to start around this circuit, which you can see is an amazing Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. We had a 70-minute practice session, which was just completed. They have 20 minutes of qualifying out there on their own, which they're currently doing. We then head into a 90-minute race around this brilliant 3.66-mile circuit. It is going to be absolutely fantastic, that is for sure. The circuit opened, of course, back in 1948. It was the home of the first ever Formula One World Championship event. 18 corners around the current iteration of the circuit, which was introduced back in 2013, of course, where we cut off the old section that went underneath the bridge where originally the start-finish line used to be. Instead, we go through the village complex and into Brooklands, which is up towards along the one of the old runways, of course. The runways still do form an important part of the circuit. Of course, we also run around the outer roads. That's how this circuit used to be run, is on the outer roads of the former World War II bomber airbase. And it, of course, then developed into what it is today. What a great circuit this one is going to be then as we head around for our qualifying session. And with that being said, let us jump down onto the racing surface here and see who is out there ready to show us around this circuit. Now, they had 20 minutes to get their laps in. However, they also only have a maximum of 4 laps. And right now, Julian Daniels is on lap number 3. So we will have a ride on board with the man in the LMP1 field as he comes towards the end. And hopefully, we will be able to get ourselves a lap around the Silverstone circuit. Daniels goes a little bit wrong there through the veiled chicane, but out of the final turn it goes for one more lap of this brilliant circuit. So everyone watching, I welcome you in today, and I hope that you are enjoying your Saturday evening as we are here on the Aztec Racing YouTube page. As I just see how we get through these corners here for Julian Daniels, struggling a little bit through the complex there, and in fact Daniels backing out on this lap after that one. It is a very tricky lap around here. Definitely, if you're not used to these older machines, we see Justin Stanek come out of pit lane as well, and he's looking to try and get one more lap time on the board for himself. Then we've got the GTE machines heading out there, and we'll jump on board here as we watch Andy Bootland. Let's get our timing tower up so we can see our classes and how they currently sit. Of course, here at Joseph Wright Broadcasting, this is only the 3rd event of our super weekend of broadcasting. 6 broadcasts coming your way from Joseph Wright Broadcasting, so make sure that you check us out as we come out of Luffield there, turn number 7 across what most people know as the old pit lane. Of course, it is still there. It's still used in the national layout, not the original pit lane around this circuit. We go through old turn number 1, though, of Cops. You can get that very fast. Of course, I'm sure we'll be seeing some drivers push the limits on the exit of Cops during the race. Into the Maggott and Beckett chicane. World famous section of corners here as drivers have to switch left and right and left and right again, running about 4 Gs through each of those corners when you're running in a car as fast as the Formula 1s. Of course, the LMP1s will be meeting similar G-forces as that. Fortunately for our drivers, they're only in their virtual machines. They don't have to worry about their necks getting hurt there as we watch Andy Bootland come around the end of this lap on club. He'll get onto the brakes here of the Vale chicane. A very tight complex, of course, introduced a few years before the new pit lane was installed here, and onto the recently named Hamilton Straight here, which is the new pit straight. Of course, this circuit swings to the right, unlike our classic, which swings to the left-hand side there, but we get up towards the village complex here as Andy Bootland goes for another lap. He sits at the back of the GTE field at the moment, but it is Jeffrey Lawler who is the fastest overall in the LMP1 class by 0.02 of a second. Riley Pogue is the fastest in the LMP2 class by less than 0.1 of a second, but it is a dominant run in the GTE field at the moment by Philip Barriswell, who sits at the front of that one, 1.3 seconds clear of those behind him. We're waiting for 4 more drivers to get in a valid lap. It doesn't look like we will with the amount of time on the board then. So we shall see how this one goes as Julian Daniels pulls into pit lane after completing his 4 laps of qualifying. Justin Stanek here has this last lap to go, and we'll see how he is able to get around this circuit as we come into the end of the lap, pushing slightly wide there, but he does stay on the circuit. Justin Stanek here comes onto the brakes through the Vale chicane, and these LMP1s, they can just get through so nimbly. We were watching on board the GTE before, of course, had to get it slowed down a lot more there. Traffic is going to be important over the 90 minutes of racing for our drivers, so it'll be interesting to see how they are each going to handle that. Here is our LMP2 Classic machine, the HPD, and one of my all-time favorite endurance cars. It just looks brilliant, and it drives really fun as well, in my opinion. And it's just a lot of fun to have out on track. Of course, when we did the Christmas throwback, we didn't run the LMP2 Classic class. We were only running the LMP1s and the GTE field. So it's nice to see those HPDs out in the LMP2 Classic machines. Now, qualifying ticks over towards its end here. It looks like we do have Chatterton coming back out, possibly around the lap time. Lucas Chatterton slowest in the LMP2 Classic field at the moment, but he has got 4 laps on the board, so I don't think he will be allowed anymore. In fact, he does come to a stop. So with a minute and a half left in qualifying here, we can talk you through the grid that will be starting this race around the brilliant Silverstone circuit. 90 minutes are going to be on the board. Let's get our grid all up for us. We will start with our LMP1 grid, of course, which will have Jeffrey Lawler at the front of that one, ahead of Nicholas Kingswell in second place. Only 0.02 of a second separate the 2 teammates there. It is the front 3, all by Nexus Esports, as Jimmy Crooks comes in to 3rd position there. And will be starting just behind. Jan Corbs will be starting in 4th position, ahead of Sauvigny in 5th and Verdonk in 6th position. We then have a little look back. It's Alexander Strobel who will be starting this one in 7th place ahead of Julian Metzner. Sam Hughes will be starting in 9th position ahead of Adolfo Perez. Justin Stanek will start in 11th, and Tony Dibden will be starting in 12th position. 13th position on the grid will be Mikhail Abasek in 13th, ahead of Smaggers Gale in 14th position. Harry Shaw will be starting in 15th, and Flukiger will be starting in 16th. Gavin Arbogast will be starting this one in 17th place, ahead of Dominic Gallo. And then at the back of your LMP1 field will be Julian Daniels and Travis Clausen in 19th and 20th position. We have a look at our LMP2 Classic field for this one then, and that will be starting on pole position from Riley Pogue, who put in a good lap time, only just less than 1/10 of a second faster than Luca Gray, who will be starting in P number 2. Ryan Stringer will start this one in 3rd position ahead of Aspen Martin, and Matthew Jolly will be starting in P5. Jacob Jenner will start this one in 6th position ahead of Ivan Taranov, and Lucas Chatterton at the back of that field. We then will jump down into our, well, actually, I would say Chris Suski has not put in a lap time in that field, nor has Niccolo Monti or Ben Massey in the LMP1 field. So they will be starting towards the back. They will have to work their way through the GTE fields and the LMP2 field to make their way forward. Philip Barrows will be starting the GTE field on pole position ahead of Isaac Fairweather. Callan Shepherd will be starting in third position ahead of Thomas Clausen. Mauricio Marquez Ramos will start in fifth. Andy Bootland in sixth position. Seventh position will be Luca Monroe on this grid. He will be in the midst of our LMP1s and LMP2s who will be starting at the back of the field. 4 drivers without lap times on the board for this one. We will get ourselves ready though as drivers are getting onto the grid ready for their rolling start. They'll get set off from the entrance into Stowe here and heading down to the Vale chicane. Of course, we are expected to see a little bit of separation between each of our classes, but we shall see how well that plays out. Of course, it is going to be very tricky with such a short run to the line to separate 3 classes quite so much as you would want to. But as you can see, we have a nice field of drivers preparing to get going here. An hour and a half is on the board for this one, as we are going to see our 38 drivers get started on their formation lap. We'll have the LMP1s pulling away from the front of this field. The LMP2s will leave just a little bit of a gap, and then we will have our GTEs at the back of this one. But it's Jeffrey Lawler who will be in control of the overall pace at the front of this field. When will we get the green flag? Because our drivers behind will be looking to go as already we are going here. The GTEs haven't even got off the line yet from the start. It looks like our leaders are gone and we are green here at the very front of this field. As the green flag is called, our GTEs are moving, but they are going to have to go from before the Vale chicane. This is our HPDs, our LMP2 Classic class, heading out of the end of the lap, trying to get their fight started as well, as we have our GTEs coming up towards the line in their own fight, settling down over the line there. But on the opening lap of the race, we see Jan Corbs already with a meatball flag. He has fallen down the order. We'll have to have a look to see what happened there. Jeffrey Lawler comes out of Luffield in the opening stages of this race and changes position as Flukiger gets past Magersdale in the middle of this field. As we jump down back to the LMP2 field at the moment, they have opened themselves up and run single file, as have our GTE field at the very back. Smagerscale looking to try and gain any position he can on the opening stages of this race. Harry Shaw in front of him is already up 6 places. Jean Corbs down to the back of the LMP1 field that started at the front. He's going to need to come down pit lane with that meatball flag. A few drivers now coming out of pit lane, and Justin Stonek started behind the GTEs. He also has the meatball flag. Dibden gets past Arbsek there as Flukiger goes side by side with Smagerscale into Stowe there, and Flukiger regains a top 10 position here as we come up towards the timing line to end the first lap of asking around the Silverstone circuit. It is Jeffrey Lawler leading the overall way here at the moment as we watch the rest of the field come all through. This is Riley Pogue leading the LMP2 Classic field at the moment. He's got Luca Gray just behind him though. Stringer is looking to try and keep up as well, as is Aston Martin running around in 4th position in that class at the moment as Jack Corbs comes down pit lane to sort out his black flag there. We will see how he gets on down that pit lane and how long it might be for him as the rest of the LMP1 field get through. Tony Dibden has gone off and finds himself around and hitting the inside barrier there with some front end damage for Dibden, who had made his way up the field on the opening laps of Asking, but he has found his way now towards the back, and some heavy damage for Dibden there, really struggling to get his car turned to the right. Dibden will have to tow himself down to pit lane, and certainly he does in that one. Jean Corbs back out of pit lane then after using his one quick repair that he will get for this race, and he is now needing to make his way through the GTE field. The race leader of Philip Beresville gives him more than enough room on exit there. Aberserk here looking to get up the inside of Smangersgale as we go into the Vale chicane for P number 11. The 54 machine jumps up the inside of the 660, and it is a quick overtake there for Aberserk, and he gets up into 11th position. Lawler holds a second gap there, as that was a back mark one of the LMP1 machines of Dibden Stanek, both down pit lane on the open lap of Askin. Gavin Armogask and Alexander Strobel have both also been down pit lane. They've dealt their meatball flags, and they have used their quick repairs in doing that. They're right at the back of the oval field. Stanek there down pit lane at the moment. We'll see how long that one takes for him, as he does have a lot of issues on his machine. Ryan Stringer here sits third position in class right now, only 0.2 of a second behind Luca Gray if he is able to do something with that one, but he has got Aspen Martin just behind him as well, looking to try and make the way through, and very shortly they're going to have Jean Corbs coming through the field. Corbs still on the opening lap of the, still on the lead lap of this race. He has not fallen a lap down in his pit stop, but he is running 56 seconds behind Dominic Gallo, who is sitting in P15 right now. Behind the lead, no, he is only 31 seconds behind P15. He's 57 seconds behind the race lead. But with that being said, Jean Corbs is coming through the LMP2 field at the moment and looking to make his way back up the order. So that is his progress so far. Quinton Verdonk is running around behind Customary here in front of him. They are running around in the top 5 at the moment. And Jimmy Crooks is not too far off of Kingswell at the very front of this one either, as we are only on the 4th lap of Asking. We expect about 57 laps as Corbs continues to make his way through. We see Harry Shaw get past Aberserk there through the hairpin, and it looked like, actually no, it was an attempted move there from Aberserk, and Harry Shaw was just able to hold on to that position. Now then, let's see if we can jump all the way back onto the opening lap of this race and see what happened to a few of our drivers. This was Strobel, it was a wobble, and then a collection from behind, and that's what happened in the LMP1 field that saw so many cars get involved in that one. And this is what happened to Abagast. He was just collected with a spinning car going on ahead of him, so issues there. This is what happened to Jean Corbs. Oh, it looks like it's happened earlier for him. He was caught up in that initial accident actually for Jean Corbs, which is why he's then caught up and moved on. This then was Strobel trying to get himself started as well, as he had issues. Dominic Gallo also then had issues in the LMP1 field, as he was trying to work his way around. Or maybe he did not. It told me he did, but Dominic Gallo did not. Tony Dibden then, what happened to him? That was a big old slide on the rear end. We saw him going into the wall after the slide there through Brooklands. He was trying to get the car around with the spin, and just that invisible barrier there on the circuit catching him out. Julian Daniels also had an issue. He pulled over to the side with his issue, in fact. I think that was trying to get out of the way. We would return to live pictures now, and in fact it was looking like it was just the LMP1 field that was having the issues out there, and the rest of our drivers just getting around nicely. Now the lead of the LMP2 field is pretty close right now. On screen you can see your 4 leaders. It's Pogue leading Gray, leading Stringer, leading Martin, So it is very close between these two drivers. Martin's at the rear of this one in 4th place, and you can see the podium in front of him. It's not too far away in the opening stages here. He'll be hoping that that doesn't open up and pull away. Talking about positions changing, 2nd and 3rd position have just swapped around there. What just happened here? It looks like it was during a GTE maneuver. It certainly was, as Kingswell was just held up behind one of our GTE machines. It was Isaac Fairweather he was held up behind, and Crooks was just able to get that overtake completed. Harry Shaw and Ben Massey here are going at it as Shaw looks to the inside. No, of Smagersdale, I should say. Harry Shaw gets the inside. Smagersdale holding it on that wider line. It turns into the inside. On the next double apex, tries to keep it on the outside is Harry Shaw. He does so, but he backs out heading up towards turn number 1. James Smagersdale will hold on to this one in 11th right now. Harry Shaw behind at the moment, and that's a little bit deep there from Shaw as Smagersdale tries to do something, and a little bit of a look from Ben Massey behind there. And I do thank the correction in the chat, the YouTube chat over there, that I am looking for Aspen Martin, and she's doing a very good job chasing on behind that field at the moment. Ben Massey, though, almost trying to take advantage of the back markers in the GTE field, and that's exactly what you're going to see. These GTE field class, there may not be many of them, only 6 competing today, only 9 of the LMP2 Classic class competing today, but they are going to have an impact in our fight. Jeffrey Lawler is taking full advantage of any issues going on behind him right now, because he's pulled a 3-second advantage at the front of this field in the LMP1 machine at the moment. Jan Corbs has got past all of the LMP2 class at the moment. He sits 24 seconds behind those ahead as Ben Massey gets past Harry Shaw the moment we look behind, and Riley Pogue has just fallen from the lead to 3rd position, and it's a fight going on ahead of him between Luca Gray and Ryan Stringer. Gray leading at the moment. Stringer looks to the inside, but the leading 3 drivers in your LMP2 field at the moment are going at it, and we will see if we can find out how these overtakes happen in the first place. This was Luca Gray getting past Pogue. Pogue's gone deep, has had a really bad entrance into Village there. Gray's taken advantage, and so has Stringer. And one late entry, a deep moment for Pogue, loses him down now into the clutches of Aspen Martin, who is chasing down behind, seeing this fight going on ahead at the moment, as Jacob Jenner is overtaken by Abergast here. Abergast recovering from an early incident with that quick repair already used, as Matthew Jolly looking to take advantage of all these fast LMP1 machines coming through, and does get past Lucas Chatterton as well for 6th place in class. Who is that running around just there? That was Jeffrey Lawler. So the race leader is coming through this field of LMP2s now. Are they going to slow him down? As we've got Jimmy Cooks and Nicholas Kingswell chasing down just behind as well as they go through turn number 1. They can see that lead fight going on in the LMP2 field ahead of them. Here we go back towards the LMP2s with Ryan Stringer running out ahead at the moment of Luca Gray. Abergast now getting involved in this one, trying to dispatch them as he moves past the leaders in the field. Looks to the inside of Stringer there. There is enough room, and will be able to make that move towards the inside. Will he look to the inside of Stowe? He certainly is, and there's contact with Luca Gray. The LMP2 Classic leader is off after contact with Gavin Abergast. Tried to make the move through there, but Gray somehow holds it all together there. There's the contact. It's a big old slide, opposite lock. Gray gets it back running now, but is behind this train of drivers that has promoted Aspin up into P3. Harry Shaw has found his way down to pit lane. It looks like the Iron Apex esports machine was broken going into that one. He looked like he was broken before he slammed into that wall there, deciding to quit in a extravagant fashion there. The leaders in your LMP1 field opening up slightly as they try to get through your LMP2 drivers. This is back to the LMP2 field because it is still that 4-car fight for the very front of the field here. As we head through the village loop, Luther Gray has got Alexander Stovall just behind. No, that is not Stovall overtaking there. That is someone lapping around this field at the moment, and I believe that might be Quinton Verdonk, which it is Quinton Verdonk running around at the moment in the Vulcan Motorsports machine. He heads out of Luffield and through Woodcock and is running around right now in 4th position, about 3.5 seconds back of the Nexus Esports machines at the very front of this one. 7/10 of a second between Kingswell and Crooks there in 2nd and 3rd position, as the Fairweather and Shepherd get past Harry Shaw, who obviously down pit lane in the LMP1 machine, as this is the podium at the moment in your GTE field, as it is Beresville leading Fairweather, leading Shepherd. GTE's leaving a little bit of a gap between themselves at the moment. This is your closest fight out there in your GTE field. It is Andy Bootland chasing down Marquez Ramos in 5th and 6th position in class. And we come into the arena here, the village loop, and out onto the hangar straight, out of turn number 5. And looks like a change near at the top here, because Julian Metzner has gone around. Metzner there was doing a good job running towards what was Metzner? Metzner was in P6, it looks like, before he span there into P number 9 now, and will have to do a little bit of a recovery drive. And his first driver to dispatch is Leon Flukiger here, moves to the left-hand side, and will make that overtake quite nicely in the number 1 machine, past Flukiger, who sits now in 9th position. It'll be a little bit more of a recovery needed as we jump on back. Matthew Jolly has found himself spinning and around there. What's happened to Jolly as he comes out, comes into Brooklands? Is a loss of the rear end for Matthew Jolly. Finds himself off, but just enough space there to get back onto the track without getting into anyone's way. Jolly now down to 7th position in class. It is closing up between the LMP1s at the front. That's because they've got a host of GTE machines in front of them here, but Crooks is just behind Kingswell. Of course, they swapped over with Crooks moving into 2nd position early on in the race. They're back through down again, but they've lost a lot of time there, to the point where Verdonk is now right on the back of Crooks. Crooks really slowed down through that Vale complex, lost about 1.5 seconds to Kingswell. Verdonk closed up about 1.5 seconds, currently being the highest running Audi in the LMP1 field, as Verdonk looking to try and get onto what is currently a dominant Nexus podium. He'll be wanting to try and change that up here as we head through Luffield. Half a second between them, but Perez just behind, looking for 6th position up the inside of Hughes, and makes that one work. Adolfo Perez in the 92 machine makes a very nice overtake in towards Brooklands, and we will see how that one looks aboard Adolfo Perez. Looks to the inside there, not much of a fight going on from the way of Samuel Hughes, but Perez needing to put his nose in to make sure Hughes allowed him that overtake. That certainly has happened at the moment. Verdonco looking to get onto the podium here as he looks to get past Jimmy Crooks. It's about 0.2 of a second behind. That's a back marker of Travis Clausen in the LMP1 just behind here as we get into the Vale chicane. We ride on board with Quinton Verdonk here. And across the timing line, he is looking to try and close up onto that podium, get past. We've got the GTE there of the Ferrari, but he gets through, of the Corvette there. But he gets through that one nicely. Onto the break through the village complex here. Verdonk just 0.6 of a second between himself and Jimmy Cox. Has a good run out of the corner there. Another GTE running in the way of the field, but Verdonk's going to look towards the inside there. Crooks left the door open. He was not quite close enough to make that move, but he is putting his Audi as close as he can right now to the back of the Porsche, and on the exit of Luffield, Quinton Verdonk makes his way into third position. Crooks just knew he didn't quite have the exit on the previous corner. There's no point fighting too hard just yet. We've still got an hour and 10 minutes in this race. It is still early doors right now on lap number 12, but it is up onto the podium for Quinton Verdonk. Jimmy Cook again losing time behind a GTE there. He just isn't able to dispatch these GTEs as well. In fact, he reached his rev limit there, which gave him a slower than usual exit. He's reached his rev limit a couple of times there, as Samuel Hughes now is on the back of Adolfo Perez. Remember, we saw Perez make that move no more than a lap ago. Can Samuel Hughes return the favour here as Justin Stanek moves up into 21st place overall? He's still 18th in class, trying to catch up, as that was almost into the GTE for Hughes, but it gives a big gap between himself and Perez now as Crooks gets to the rear end of Verdonk. There was a close moment between Abasek and Smagersdale. In fact, there was a switch in position between those two. This is how that one occurred along the main hangar straight, and it was just a nice easy move there as we go live. Leon Flukiger has come down pit lane. It looks like he hasn't had too much of an issue. Oh, it may have done. It looks like he's visited the off track here. I don't see any damage for him, but Leon Flukiger is down pit lane. As, yeah, it doesn't look like there's too much damage for Flukiger. He's back out, but he has taken a fast repair. So no meatball for Flukiger there. Is that smoke ahead of him? Will it be all clear when he gets through? It certainly will. So yeah, it looks like he's picked up some damage around the lap there for Flukiger, but he has had to come down pit lane to take that quick repair. He is now out and looking to try and move back up the order. Ben Massey there. We go looking live. He just gets past Smagersdale, and it looks like that was done nicely on the exit of Stowe. A good amount of speed on the exit there. And Ben Massey moves past James Smagersdale as they went into the Maggots and Beggots complex. They come to get to the inside of the Corvette there, and they certainly do that. And they get past the GTE. Chris Susky has had an issue. And that's through turn number 3, finding himself facing the wrong way. Luckily, no one else collected in that one, and he'll be facing the right way. Jean Corb has now caught up to the rear end of the LMP1 field that was not in any issues on the opening lap. He's made his way past Dominic Gallo, and now looking to chase down Travis Clausen, who is 12 seconds up the road. So that was a nice, easy move for Jean Corb. In fact, we will have a little look on this one. It was a conclusion with 3 of the 3 classes involved, but Corb placed it to the inside there, jumped up the inside of Dominic Gallo, and made that overtake work. A nice move indeed for Jean Cordes as we go back live. The top four of your LMP2 field, we were talking about them quite a lot early doors in this race. Ryan Stringer is still leading the way after Luca Gray was sent off track at Stowe, at Cops, I should say, at turn number 9. I said Stowe earlier, I meant Cops. As we watch Ryan Stringer here come up towards Cops corner, he's getting another LMP1 past him. It is now 1.6 seconds between himself and Pogue, and the extra 0.8 of a second back to Martin and Luca Gray, who was leading the LMP2 class before contact. Finds himself still chasing on towards Aston Martin, but Martin is 2.5 seconds up the way right now. As Riley Pogue is looking to do really well for him, as this was Suski after going around. Looks like just a little bit slowly through the chicane. In fact, he comes off at the exit of Vale. Possibly trying to sort some issues out here the way that he was completely off. Maybe just trying to get out of the way of the LMP1. Definitely look like there may be issues for Chris Suski, who falls behind some LMP1s lapping there. Julian Daniels continuing to make some moves on the GTE field as Julian trying to catch up to the rest of the LMP1 pack right now. We'll go back to Jean Cordes. Cordes is looking quick out there right now. Not the fastest. The fastest is Jeffrey Lawler. Their best laps are separated by 0.6 of a second, but Cordes has not really had a lap without any other cars out there in front of him, because he's having to make some laps, a lot of laps getting past back the other classes. This is Lawler also trying to make other classes. Who was that off? At turn number 1, it was a big hit there. I thought it was Pogue, it might not have been. It was Ivan Taranov here. It was a loss of the rear end. Did he keep it out of the barriers? Fortunately for Taranov, kept it out of the barriers there. And the Scorpio Esports driver is able to get back on, dumping a load of gravel on the exit of turn number 1 as he did so. Julian Metzner, looking to recover after going around earlier on in the race, is currently chasing down Samuel Hughes here. They're separated by about 0.6 of a second. There could be an opportunity here for Metzner to move past Samuel Hughes as we head up towards turn number 1. Of course, and it's not too far up to Adolfo Perez. We watched that fight between Perez and Hughes earlier on. As we come through and up towards the timing, the old timing line from the before we had the upgrade in 2013, of course. And if you run the national layout, you still run from this pit lane. Ultimately, my more favourite of the 2 pit lanes. But of course, the endurance run and the Formula 1 runs, they run from the new pit lane. Beautiful facility. I have toured it behind the scenes as well as all the garages. It is a very beautiful building in comparison to the old pit lane, which I've also toured. But there's something more rustic, and it just feels more like a racing track when you're down in that old pit lane. That is for sure. We watch Aspen here holding on to 3rd position in class at the moment, and going up towards Brooklands does have a GTE in front of her, and she will need to navigate her way past. She looks towards the outside here. It might turn to the inside. Nope. Aspen will keep it on the wider line there. And Aspen Martin there getting past another GTE Shield in this field and looking to do something with the rest of this race. I mean, holding on to a 3rd place will be absolutely a brilliant result in this one. Talking about 3rd places, Verdonk has solidified his LMP1 3rd place right now. He's 2.2 off of Kingswell, but Cooks has dropped down to 4.4 seconds behind. This fight in the midfield of your LMP1 category right now is still ongoing. Half a second behind Perez is Hughes, and then a second behind is Metzner. There are a lot of different classes around this part of the circuit, though. You've got about 8 cars in just this section of the course right now as we go through the Maggots and Beckett chicane, running on board Julian Metzner, looking ahead at Hughes and Perez as they come through and out of Beckett's here and onto the hangar straight. As we jump back towards the rear of your LMP1 field. Alexander Strobel here, running in 17th position, only 0.8 of a second away from Abogast ahead. Of course, Abogast was the driver that ended up having contact with Luca Gray from the lead of the LMP2 field. Gray has closed into 1.3 once again of Aspen Martin here. Martin herself has closed in 1.2 of Riley Pogue, as that was another LMP1 jumping to the inside. That was Jeffrey Lawler, who's coming around to lap these LMP2 drivers for a second time in the overall lead of this race. It looks like a few laps ago, Lucas Chatterton had an issue. He found himself away, but the important thing for our drivers that are finding themselves facing the wrong way, they are not finding themselves into barriers, but this could be a overtaking opportunity on the horizon here. Samuel Hughes chasing right behind Perez and could look for a potential move in this one. Samuel Hughes, though, has the sitting in the 22 machine, though, also has Julian Metzner just behind, and Metzner is going to dispatch the LMP1 driver. That is a lap down, and that is going to be Strobel, I believe, that they have just got past, who got me very excited, thinking there was an overtake going on there. No, it was a dispatch for now, as Leon Pfluger has entered pit lane. It looks like Leon has had an issue. Let's see what's happened to him up towards the village complex. There's smoke ahead, and he just has a car issue, it looks like, for the number 21 machine, and has to jump down in towards pit lane, which is a real shame. We ride back on board with the number 1 machine, trying to dispatch more back markers, more cars in this one. Perez is not too far off of Sogne here, who is running around in P number 5 as Metzner there looks to get past. Samuel Hughes gets right onto the rear end. LMP2 is getting involved in these fights. It is tough out there for our LMP1 field, but they are doing a great job for the most part, making sure that there is not contact between themselves and the other classes as they make their way through. We are less than an hour left in this race. Somehow half an hour has flown by around this Silverstone circuit. We jump back and have a look at Chris Suski here. Suski running around towards the back of the field, and it looks like that was a little bit of an issue there for an for a GTE around, and looks like, looking here on our GTE field, sorry, LMP2 field, something has happened. Riley Pogue has got a meatball flag. What has happened here? It's contact with the race leader. It was contact with the race leader for Pogue. Lawler to the right. Pogue moves across to the right. Lawler holds it somehow, but Pogue slams into the wall. I don't know whether that was just unsighted there from Pogue. We go through turn number 1. He moves to the racing line, but there was your race leader. Lawler gets that contact. Look at this hole. What a save. It could have been the end of the race for your race leader, but Jeffrey Lawler held it together, which means your podium position now taken over once more by Luca Gray. Aspen Martin has moved into second in class, and Ryan Stringer right now is still leading the way in that LMP2 field. The gap at the front has closed down following Lawler's contact with Pogue there. 0.8 of a second between Verdonk and Kingswell. Quinton Verdonk here finding pace in the race that he didn't quite have in qualifying. 6th position on the grid, but he is closing up towards 2nd place in this race right now. As we have a look back once again, because there could be a fight going on in the LMP2 field very shortly. Luca Gray is just off the rear end of the Prismatic Motorsport driver of Aston Martin. She's doing a great job at the moment in holding on to that second and just taking advantage of the issues ahead of her. Of course, Luca Gray taken out by an LMP1, dropping him down to 4th originally. Now Pogue has sent himself around with contact, and it is Martin at the front, but it was deep from an was that the Ryan Stringer actually? It was deep from Stringer, and that is inviting Martin back into the fight here for a race lead. It is now just 1.4 seconds separating the podium in your LMP2 field once again. I feel like I'm ignoring the GTE field just a little bit. That's not intentional in any way. They are just a little bit more spread out there. But right now, Beresville continues to hold the lead of the GTE field ahead of Isaac Fairweather. It is Callan Shepherd running around in 3rd position at the moment ahead of Thomas Clausen. Andy Bootland runs around in 5th position, and Mauricio Marquez Ramos runs around in 6th at the back of that GTE field. Again, not covering them not because I don't want to, they are just a little bit open, as you can see on the intervals on the left-hand side. We return then back to your LMP1 fight for the podium for Donk here. Chasing down Nicholas Kingswell for 2nd position. Lawler slowly pulling away once more at the front of this one. Verdonk will be hoping to try and dispatch Kingswell quickly here. He's got a couple of GTEs around him. It's not going to help him out so much there. But Verdonk is going to want to try and get past Kingswell, because that way he is able to try and close the gap once again up to Lawler, because that gap is increasing yet again here. And it continues to do so as Kingswell has got Verdonk all over the rear. Verdonk's going to go for it. Moves to the right, moves to the left here. Will have to take the outside line up into Kopp's corner. Will back out of it to go for the switchback. Will he get a nose in? He could have, but he knows it's a risk. With 55 minutes left to go, we have crash from Chris Suski and Ryan Stringer. We'll have to catch that in a moment. But Verdonk has to remain behind the number 69 machine as we come out of Brooklands and out of Beckett's and Chapel and up in towards Stowe now. Verdonk moves to the left-hand side. We'll have to hold it around the outside. That's going to be a GTE there that helps Verdonk out. And Verdonk moves into second position. I was trying to say position and place at the same time. Verdonk gets through to 2nd position. Kingswell now in 3rd. What's happened to Suski and Stringer? Was it contact between the two of them? Suski looked like Suski was trying to avoid the GTE. Oh, it almost was, but at the same time, not too sure. Then it was Ryan Stringer from the lead of the LMP2s, but somehow, even with that, Ryan Stringer is still leading the LMP2s. Ryan Stringer, what? How did Stringer must have gained a huge amount of a gap whilst we were watching that lead fight going on. That was Travis Clausen out the final corner, but Stringer gave up, what about, that must have been, what, 10, 12 seconds there? And stayed in the lead, but that does mean that Stringer's once again under attack from Martin and Gray in 2nd and 3rd position. Adolfo Perez here looking to try and get past Slovne up into fifth position to the inside of Kopp's corner. It certainly does that, and now Julian Metzner will be looking to follow through on the outside of Maggots. It will turn into the inside as we head into Beckett's there, and Julian Metzner's up into sixth position as we exit Chapel and onto the hangar straight. Julian Metzner up to sixth, Adolfo Perez into a top five. We will jump down to have a look at Jean Corbs. He's running in 12th position right now after having to visit pit lane for that quick repair on the opening lap of Arsking. He is about 0.8 of a second off of Smaggers Gale right now as he comes through the Maggots and Beckett's complex, trying to chase down the LMP1 you can see in front as Perez goes up past Cooks, because Cooks comes down pit lane. Right, Jimmy Cooks comes down pit lane here. It disappears behind pit lane apparently, and we'll have a stop going on for him as he fills up fuel, and we'll come out of the pits on this one, and we'll see how he gets going in this race. As Corbs here we've got to the rear end of Smaggers Gale now, 0.3 of a second between them as Corbs gets past yet another LMP2 driver. Can Corbs make his way into what is currently a top 10 position in class? Looks like he might be able to, as it looks like we've got Luca Gray down pit lane as well. It temporarily promotes Jacob Jenner into third position, as Corbs now looking all over the rear end of Smaggers Gale. We ride on the rear end of Smaggers Gale back towards the man on the recovery drive as we head out of turn number 8 and up towards turn number 9. And it is Jan Corbs chasing his way down at the moment, 0.2 of a second behind Smaggers Gale. There's quite a few close drivers out there right now as I'm trying to figure out who is in pit lane, as Sovnay and Daniels both come down pit lane. Daniels a little while behind, but Adolfo Perez moves into the lead of this one as our race leaders also come down pit lane, and they are going to make their pit stop. So does Smaggers Gale as well. Corbs can go, is looking to go a couple extra laps in this one after pitting early doors out of that one, but it does mean for the time being Adolfo Perez is now your race leader ahead of Sam Hughes. Of course, your realistic race leader of Jeffrey Lawler is currently third position right now. Verdonk is 4.2 seconds behind, so Verdonk is going to be looking to try and find some pace on this next stint to get past Jeffrey Lawler. Kingswell is sitting around in 6th right now as Jan Corbs is in 5th overall. More positions being gained behind as Travis Clausen moves into a top 10 with the pit stops ongoing. Are we going to see Ryan Stringer or Aspen Martin down pit lane anytime soon as we are approaching the halfway stage of this race? There's more positions changes as Gallo and Massey swap over. That was definitely tyre change for Ben Massey though, and Dominic Gallo. There was not, I believe, a tyre change when we were watching Crooks. I believe that Jimmy Cooks took just fuel. I didn't see him go up on his jacks there. So an interesting choice being made by our drivers. Of course, these tyres can be double stinted, and you don't have to worry about cold tyres that way. But it'll be interesting to see who it benefits most at the end of this one, whether you want to be on fresh tyres in the second stint or you want to double stint them. We will wait to find out at the moment as our race leaders continue to head around without any pit stops to their name at the moment, as Sam Hughes in that number 22 machine has got some content damage. I know that when he comes down pit lane to fix his machine, well, to fill up his fuel, he will be fixing his machine, I am sure, as well, because that front end is looking a little bit worse for wear. Ben Massey gets past Smagasgale on the run through Cops Corner. In fact, it was on the entrance to Cops Corner that they were running side by side. It was 3 wide for a moment with a GTE machine. But it will be to the inside there to make that move. As Smagasgale behind Ben Massey. We then have a look behind here. Alexander Strobel is running around, but is running quite slowly here. Has Strobel run out of fuel, perhaps thinking he could go one additional lap here? I think that is sounding like a driver out of fuel. Alexander Strobel here, started in P7, is definitely out of fuel in the number 16.3 machine, trying his hardest to coast that car back down to pit lane. He is going to be hoping the hill here helps him out, as Adolfo Perez has come down pit lane, so has Sam Hughes. Strobel here on pit entrance will be hoping he has just enough speed to get this car into pit lane. He's in the way of the pit lane now, so if anyone else wanted to come down pit lane, which they are, they've got a slow car in front of him. That was Travis Clausen, who came around there, suddenly saw a slow car in pit lane, thinking, yeah, I can go here, and suddenly, okay, no, he is basically stopped. I will make that move through, and he does so. Strobel comes to an ultimate stop as far forward as he possibly could, as close to pit lane, but an unfortunate error. Jan Corbs is in 3rd position right now, but does need to make another pit stop here to get to the end of this race. When he makes that pit stop, is going to be a strategy call that Corbs is going to need to make, but it is going to be up to him at this stage, and it'll be an interesting one. Will he take tyres? I doubt it. I think he'll probably run around on the used set of tyres, I would assume, potentially. As we head through the midfield there, Perez and Hughes are back at it once again. They swapped around in pit lane, with Hughes being ahead of Perez here, which means Perez needs to once again make that overtake past Samuel Hughes that he made earlier on. He's got an LMP2 in front of him though. This is Julian Daniels, 18th in class right now. Finds himself off at Brooklyn, stays out of the way on drivers coming through. He gets himself back on through Luffield, as that is Chris Susky coming down pit lane. Julian Metzner gets past Jan Corbs, because Corbs is now down pit lane. Where is Corbs going to come out of the pits for this one? It's going to be anyone's guess where he might come out. I am going to say 9th position is likely here for Corbs. And as he comes out, 9th position it will be. He comes back on though. That is an LMP1 passing in, but not for position there. So that means Jan Corbs sits in 9th position here. 8.8 seconds behind Adolfo Perez, and the battle going on there. Talking about battles, Quinton Verdonk has closed what was a 4.4 second disadvantage to Jeffrey Lawler, and now gets right onto the rear end. That was an LMP2. It's a black flag for Jeffrey Lawler. Jeffrey Lawler is penalised. Halfway through this race, your race leader is going to have to come down pit lane and serve that penalty. Justin Stinnett gets a penalty around about the same time, 3 seconds earlier, What happened there for Jeffrey Lawler? We'll have to find out, but this is for Donk looking to the inside. But he knows, he'll need to know, Lawler's got that penalty. He does not need to make this overtake on track. He just has to wait. And the overtake will come with Lawler visiting pit lane. But what is Verdonk going to do here? More penalties handing out, as Alexander Strobel will have to visit pit lane as well. I think drivers might just be pushing it a little bit too hard, and they're just, well, the LMP1's just reaching that instant limit. You've got to remember, Lawler would have picked up the 4X after the contact with Pogue when Pogue drove into the side of him. But Donkey goes around. It looks like Lawler also picked up damage on this stint, which is why he may have dropped back a bit, because he did his fast repair during his pit stop. Right, but Donk looks to the outside here. Backs out of it. That is going to stay in the lead for Jeffrey Lawler. He stays out on track as well. It's 11 seconds back to Kingswell behind in P number 3. It is a huge gap right now between this lead fight and the rest of them. What happened then to Jeffrey Lawler when he received the, was it just from an off track? We saw the LMP2 in front of him jump off track. It was the contact that led to the off track for Jeffrey Lawler that picked up the 1X that would have reached the instant limit for him. But did Lawler have an earlier accident in this one? Contact with somebody else, because he picked up damage from somewhere, and I cannot see where he might have had a slow lap. It doesn't look like he was slow at any point, so if he has had contact to pick up that damage, he certainly kept his pace up whilst doing it. But when will Lawler decide to come down pit lane? Because he is going to have to release Verdonk and relinquish this race lead in this fight right now. As we look to the outside along the hangar straight. At the moment, it's a little bit of a nudge between the two drivers. Lawler holds on. I don't think Verdonk is too happy here that Lawler is holding him up. But Lawler comes down pit lane to serve the penalty, which means Verdonk is going to inherit the race lead here with 40 minutes to go. Jeffrey Lawler is going to have to take what will be one of the slowest drive-throughs that he can experience, because the length of this new pit lane along the Grand Prix circuit is so long that he's fallen behind Kingswell. Look, he's losing. By the time he gets out and up to speed, it could be about 20 seconds, 18 seconds it looks like. 19 seconds Jeffrey Lawler has just lost with that drive-through, which means Verdonk is now 12.5 seconds clear of Kingswell. Crooks has got back onto the podium, and the man who's been leading throughout this race drops down to P4 with that one. Strobel also down pit lane to serve his penalty, as Jacob Jenner here is closing up to Luca Gray. Both of them have made pit stops in the fight for third. Luca Gray obviously did it a lot earlier, but the earlier stop definitely helped Jenner out, because Jenner is now only a second behind. It means two leaders are a minute ahead, but neither Stringer or Aston Martin have made their way down pit lane. I say that Ryan Stringer has just made his way down pit lane, which means Aston Martin and Prismatic Motorsport will move into the lead of this one, and Ryan Stringer of Scorpio Esports will come down to stop in his pit box. But it is Aston Martin now, who was running around in fourth, taking advantage of all the other drivers having issues. Can Martin take advantage of running slightly longer in this one? Because it certainly seems to have Jacob Jenner here. And could Martin find herself into the lead of the race following the pit stop? It's going to need a quick one. 38 minutes. Of course, if she does not take tyres, it means she can have a quicker pit stop on fuel, because she doesn't need to put as much fuel in as those that have pitted before her. Tony Dibden here looking to get past Gavin Abegast, and does make that move for 15th position as Abegast moves down into 16th place. Your GTE field, only Isaac Fairweather and Thomas Clausen have currently done their pit stop. Barrisville yet to come down pit lane in his machine, but running around at the front ahead of Callan Shepherd. But you can see the gap between them. It's about 37 seconds right now, that GTE field. Very much going for just getting to the end to get your points, because there's not too many on-track battles at the moment. Will Aspen Martin find herself down pit lane just a lap after Ryan Stringer? She certainly does. Aspen Martin here is going to come down pit lane and see what she can do. Again, it does feel like an extremely long pit lane here, especially when you then got to make your stop, as Aspen Martin pulls across to the right-hand side in towards her pit box. She'll come to a stop there. Will she go up on the jacks? She will not. This is where Ryan Stringer is here. So it's all going to be about how long is Aspen Martin at a standstill for, as Stringer exits the Maggots and Beckett's complex through Chapel there. Martin still at a standstill. Was that up onto the jacks there? That was up onto the jacks for Martin. So is going for tyres in this one. Ryan Stringer comes up towards the Vale chicane here. Will we see Martin moving? We certainly will. Martin's moving there. Here comes Ryan Stringer, who is going to be leading the LMP2 field. As we come out of pit lane, here comes Aspen Martin, but Ryan Stringer will remain in the lead of the LMP2 field at the moment. 1.4 seconds. The gap between the two of them there, 1.1 seconds, but Martin will need to get those tyres up to temperature as quick as she possibly can here. As we come through turn number 5 and up towards Brooklands, there's the fight for third position between Lawler and teammate Crooks, and that's how much of a fight it will be. Jimmy Crooks lets Jeffrey Lawler by, and the two teammates there just getting into an understanding. Lawler running much quicker, of course, having to come down pit lane for a penalty, relinquishing the race lead to Verdonk. Kingswell has closed that lead down from 12 seconds to 10 seconds. Is Verdonk taking it a little bit easier here, potentially trying to save tyres? Well, last lap he was 1.1 seconds slower. Traffic may have played an important part on that one, as Jacob Jenner has got past Aspen Martin, who's had a meatball flag. Aspen Martin on her outlap. She slides and is collected by an LMP1 driver. Look at this. It was a slide into the corner. She would have been fine if she did not have the LMP1 machine chasing her right down there. But Aspen Martin, after potentially taking a race-winning class, it's going to be issues. It was Tony Dibden who went into Martin. Here's the slide on board, and Dibden had nowhere to go in that one. How's his car looking? It definitely doesn't look like he's got too many problems with his car, but he did have to relinquish a position in his class there, as Martin, unfortunately, what could have been a great race, drops her now. Will she find her way back out onto track is going to be the question. She's not yet used to her fast repair, so she could use the fast repair and get back out there. As Jacob Jenner then is promoted up into third. We talked about Riley Pogue earlier. Pogue obviously finding the wall after contact with race leader Jeffrey Lawler. Pogue was running around at the in the podium of the LMP2 field. He's currently 6th position though. Looking at the inside of Lucas Chatterton, the two of these drivers are used to racing each other. Pogue though to the inside, under the brakes here, and that will be Lawler just behind, looking to try and get past the LMP2s. It's a mixture of LMP1s and LMP2s, but Riley Pogue does get past Lucas Chatterton. There goes Lawler, there go Cooks past them as well in the LMP1 field. And just like that, we are almost half an hour left in this race. It has been flying by, and as it stands, anything can still happen. We have lost a podium runner in the LMP2 field. Our race leader in the LMP1 field has gone around, and I'm sure at some point we will see something happen. In that GTE field, their consistency right now is just phenomenal. They're keeping it clean, keeping out of trouble with the LMP1s, the LMP2s. They are just doing the best they can. Martin has fixed her damage, and she will return to the racing surface here. She is only 5 seconds behind Taranov, and only 6 seconds behind Chris Susky here. So there is potential for a 7th place finish, barring any instance ahead of her. So she is back out there looking to see what will go on, but I know that the disappointment will be there for her. She was on for a very strong result here. As this is the closest drivers out there right now. It's Jimmy Cooks chasing down Jeffrey Lawler. 3rd and 4th position between the two of them, of course. That changes the closest fight between Dibden and Abagast. Again, Dibden on the outside this time. Remember, Dibden made his move past Abagast about 3 laps ago. Dibden was then the LMP1 driver that unfortunately collected Aston Martin. Not much that he could do in that one though. There was just a slide for Martin that Dibden couldn't avoid, but Dibden gets back past Abagast there. I don't think that lead fight is well, that podium fight is going to really turn into much between Lawler and Cooks. They might fight it out within the last lap or two if they're still running close by. We did see Justin Smith have an instant a few laps ago, almost collecting a GTE driver there. That almost looked comical, the way that it went over the curbing and just avoided that one. We'll see, who was it that was around? Was it Mauricio Marquez Ramos? I think it might have been here. We ride on board with Marquez Ramos. You'll see the LMP1 up his inside. Here he is. And just, that may need a change of underwear there for Marquez Ramos, because that was as close as you can get without having an actual accident. Thomas Clausen has now found himself with a black flag in your GTE field. He's the first of the GTEs to get penalised in this race, and it is, looks like he's ran off track. We've got 20 seconds back, 10 seconds back through the Maggots and Beckett's complex. It looks like, yeah, that was the off track there, just a bit too far up the inside, I believe. Or was it on the exit? No, it was certainly there through the Beckett's complex, and he will have, well, he's come, will need to come down pit lane to serve that black flag. He was sitting in 6th position in class anyway, so he won't lose anything out in that one. Aston Martin here, though, is looking to try and get past Taranov and Susky that are just up ahead. Taranov and Susky are looking at fighting it out. Susky moves to the left, Taranov follows, and they will get that toe on the left-hand side. But here goes Taranov to try and make the position up the inside of Susky. They remain side by side. Could invite Martin into this one. Susky holds the left-hand side. Taranov, though, will be on the racing line. Martin looking to get through. That was a late break there from Susky. A lock-up. That was an LMP1 getting involved. Martin will get the position on Susky there and will now need to make the move on Taranov to get to 7th. But Martin, on her recovery, is up to 8th position now, looking to get into 7th place. as we come onto the brakes for the village complex here. Martin all over the rear of Taranov. There was some lapping going on just ahead of him there as Chris Susky will have to come down pit lane for a black flag. This is how he picked up that penalty. And it looks like it was just potentially... Oh, it was a spin! It was a spin behind from Chris. And Justin Stanek and Philip Barrisville, the leader of your GTE field, has been penalised. He is a minute in the clear though, so he'll be fine, but this is how Stanek got the penalty. Oh, pulled over to the side there. Was it contact perhaps going on? This is Barrisville. Oh no, Barrisville came down pit lane. Barrisville came down pit lane to get the fuel stop out of the way, and he has picked up a penalty in doing so. So Barrisville had a minute advantage because he hadn't pitted yet. Barrisville will have to do that pit stop and then serve the penalty, which means Isaac Fairweather, who's been running this race in second all evening long, will overtake Barrisville, who still has not moved. Meaning Isaac Fairweather now leads the GTE field. I said anything and everything can happen. And it has happened. The GTE field now hit with problems. It was a stop and go, of course. And they needed to be held in pit lane for Barrisville with the speeding in pit lane, which I think is about 40 seconds if I'm not mistaken. Which means Philip Barrisville drops to third place in class and Jimmy Crooks is back down pit lane. Why is Crooks back down pit lane? I cannot see Crooks' name coming up here at any point. But Jimmy Crooks has come down pit lane and decided to pit once again. That means Crooks here is now down in 9th position. Metzner is 4.5 seconds off of a potential podium if he can close up to Jeffrey Lawler. Back to Jean Corbs. Corbs is in 8th. He's 6 seconds off of Perez, who's a further 3 off of Hughes, who's a further 3 off of Cosnay, who managed to move his way back into 5th position in Cosnay after the earlier overtakes going on from Perez and Hughes in that fight that was going on, of course. Julian Metzner, though, looking to try and do something from 4th if he can close up that gap ahead. We're looking at Taranov, who has now got a black flag. Is it contact here that has caused that black flag? Very potentially up towards turn number 1. And yes, Taranov looks like it was contact going into what was the Woodcock chicane, complex corner, I should say. Julian Daniels here. What's happened to Julian? A big old slide on the rear end there. And Daniels also getting a penalty in this one. A lot of drivers nearing those incidence limits as they continue to head around on the circuit. As Cosnay also running around in that prismatic motorsport and being corrected once again. She's got herself up into 5th position. I do appreciate all of your help in the YouTube chat as I follow along as well. And if you haven't done so already over here on the Aztec Racing League page, make sure that you have hit that subscribe button and you will catch all of the events that are going to be coming your way broadcasted live here on YouTube and by Joseph Wright Broadcasting, which you can catch over on the Twitch as well. Of course, for Joseph Wright Broadcasting, it is only the 3rd broadcast of our super weekend. We've got 3 more to go as we head out for 3 more broadcasts tomorrow evening as well. So make sure you're heading across to the Twitch page Joseph Wright TV, and you can catch all of those as well. Make sure you hit the follow button as Cosnay comes down pit lane. I wonder why. A stint of only 15 laps here. Are we having to see a splash and dash at the end that drivers are deciding to do a little bit earlier? It doesn't look like damage here, because obviously we saw Crooks down pit lane as well. Is this potentially a splash and dash? Let's ride on board with Cosnay here. Almost thought it was a drive-through without being a drive-through. Pulls over to the side, right. Comes to a stop, the engine's off. She gets it restarted and going. Yes, we are going to see splash and dashes in the LMP1 field. That is for sure. Some drivers deciding to do it early here as Cosnay falls behind Abasek, who gets through there on the exit of the pit lane. Crooks is also through about 6 seconds up the road as well. Now, a driver who might not need to do that splash and dash is Shan Corbs. Of course, Corbs came down early in the race and has a few extra laps in hand. Is running 4 laps in hand from your race leaders. How many more laps are they going to need? Are we going to see splash and dashes from these drivers? Potentially, but also there's potential for Corbs to take advantage here with not needing the splash and dash. So we watch Cosnay here, 3/10 of a second behind Abasek. We're right on board with her as she chases down the number 54 machine and looking to move back up into P number 9 following the splash and dash. Out of Chapel and a long hanger straight here. Looks to the inside and will look to make that move, and does make that move indeed. Abasek has to just give it up and sit behind for the time being. As we get into the breaks, of course, 20 more minutes left on the clock as Julian Daniels comes down pit lane to serve his penalty. Across the timing line we go. Abasek looks to the inside of Cosnay, decides not to really stick the nose in there, a bit too far behind to do anything anyway. Just trying to fill the mirrors, maybe throw her off a little bit, as that is the leader of the GTE field of Isaac Fairweather, getting overtaken here by the battle for P number 10, and that was not what Abasek would have wanted there. Out of the hairpin, a GTE full in his face. 1.3 seconds now behind Cosnay ahead, and we'll have to do something about that as Julian Daniels comes out of pit lane in a fashion that he would not have wanted to do so. Comes out of pit lane and heads up towards turn number 1 here. Oh no, in fact it was just slowing down to let the drivers through in that one. He did clear his black flag in all of that one. Travis Clawson picked up a black flag. Of course, all these drivers getting the instance over the race. It's a 90-minute race. So off at Cops Corner here. And of course, this is a circuit that almost invites you to run those wider line off the track and pull you out of these corners. It's one that has a lot of good run-off spaces around the circuit. We certainly don't see that everywhere we are going to be going this season. Of course, we head to Spa. That has a bit of run-off there. I'm sure we'll see some instant limits around the Spa circuit, same with Le Mans. However, we then head to Nürburgring, and Nürburgring is a much tighter circuit. If you're running off the track, you are going to be kicking up a whole load of gravel as well. So you have got to be very careful about that one. As Tony Dibden is trying to close up to Dominic Gallo here and move up into 13th position. Dibden, of course, had that early accident here at this corner where he went around and then found himself into the wall on the inside where the timing tower is. It's a real shame they removed that. They got rid of that timing tower in real life, and I am really sad that they've decided to do that for some reason, as Dibden moves to the inside of Gallo. I thought that was going to be a move. He decides to back out of that one. It was almost a moment up the inside. It wasn't quite. He'll remain behind. Travis Clawson, though, has had a moment out of pit lane. Or is this just another slow down to let drivers through? No, there's a little bit of smoke ahead. It looks like Clawson might have had an issue going through turn number 3. No, it just likes to tell me that drivers may have crashed when they've exited pit lane, as Abasek and Strobel, both with penalties at exactly the same time in the race. Was it together? It certainly was, and it was contact. Abasek and Strobel there. Together, Strobel a lap behind, no, I should say 2 laps behind Abasek in that one. Let's ride on board with Strobel. He was catching up through Maggots into Beckett, of course. That was the GTE driver, and it's just contact there for Strobel. Drives straight through himself and Abasek. Both of them will have penalties to serve and damage, as well as Magascale now moves into a top 10 position with Abasek down the order. Where he will have to go even further down the order when he jumps down pit lane. As I look back here, we finally have a GTE battle going on. Thomas Clawson is on the rear end of Marcos Ramos here for 5th position in this race. Can Clawson try to do something with this one? We ride on board with Thomas Clawson coming through the club corner now, this final right-hander. Oh, and why are we sitting in a replay mode? That's where they are. Why were we sitting in a replay mode still? We will now run on board. I sometimes do that. I do apologise. Thomas Clawson still on the rear end of Marcos Ramos, though, potentially trying to make a move work here for 5th position. Of course, Clawson did start 4th in class. Marcos Ramos has started 5th, maintains 5th in this one. Beresville, who had that penalty for speeding in pit lane, 2 seconds behind Shepherd right now, looking to try and potentially get through, as Jeffrey Lawler is penalised for a 2nd time this race. Lawler will have to come down pit lane again. What has happened this time to the man who was leading? It's issues ahead of him. And on the exit, he drives through the number 50 machine of Taranov. And for Lawler, it'll be another penalty, and that was the contact for the leader in the GTE field. It was contact behind there from an LMP1 machine, I believe. Let's have a look at what happened here. It was contact from the number 63 machine. Look to the inside there. The 53 avoided it. It was Strobel. Strobel again, just not backing out of it. That's the 2nd time we've seen a move similar to that, where Strobel just drives into the car in front of him. Just needing to back out a little bit. We'll see how that goes. Lots of penalties out there, as we see Marcos Ramos now with a penalty as well. He was fighting with Clawson. That changed. And this is how that penalty came to be. Was it contact? Yes, it was. It was a 4X there, as Clawson was collected and clattered into Marcos Ramos. Abasek was black flagged for a 2nd time. He was the cause of that one. But I say the cause of that one, there wasn't really much that he could do in that one. It was a move to the right ahead of him. He got a 4X. That is another penalty for Abasek there. And Taranov finds himself penalised again in this one. And this is how that one occurred. Into Brooklands. Was it contact with the GTE? He looks to the inside. No, I'm not too sure where Taranov picked up his penalty here. Was it on the exit, perhaps? Oh, I'm not too sure where Taranov managed to pick up a black flag in that one. Maybe not doing a slowdown. Here's Lucas Chatterton, though. Lucas Chatterton got a black flag, and he did that by missing his braking point and then running off the circuit. And that would have given him the penalty for the black flag in this one. Philip Beresville now looking to try and get back into second position in this race. Moves to the right-hand side to let the LMP1 through. He gets back into the tow now behind Callan Shepherd, who runs in second. Beresville in third, who was leading most of this race until his penalty. Still are seeing some drivers making their splash and dashes here. Verdonk has come down pit lane for his splash and dash. He returns to the track in fourth position. Beresville then looking to try and get past Shepherd. Is he going to go to the outside of turn number 1? He certainly is. Is he going to try and hold it there? He knows that wider line won't quite work out for him. He'll have to remain behind just for now in that fight. Verdonk is 7/10 of a second behind Julian Metzner to return to a podium here, but Verdonk has done his splash and dash in this one. Is Corbs going to need a splash and dash in this one? I think Lawler, if he needs a splash and dash, he won't. Metzner, I think, will drop behind Corbs. There might only be the one position. In fact, a couple of LMP1 drivers coming down pit lane there. Callan Shepherd has had an issue. We were watching that fight going on, and this is what's happened. Huge. What just happened there? For Callan Shepherd, it was contact with an LMP1, both of them off the circuit into that contact. What happened? Callan Shepherd here pushes through his initial contact with the LMP1, and they both go around. Who was that LMP1? That was caught up in that one. I think it was Gallo. It was Dominic Gallo caught up in that one. Adolfo Perez gets past Metzner, who has made his way down pit lane, and that means Jan Corbs is now into 6th position. Will Corbs need that splash and dash, though? I think he will. I think Corbs is going to still need to do a splash and dash. Abergas is going to get past Gallo as Gallo now comes down pit lane for his splash and dash. Hughes is a second behind Lawler. Lawler has served his penalty. Has Lawler done a pit stop? I don't think Lawler has got fuel in that penalty. I believe he just served the drive-through. We'll have to have a look here if we can. It definitely was just a drive-through for Jeffrey Lawler there, which means Lawler still has to make a splash and dash in this race, which will allow Jan Corbs through. Corbs could take a podium in this one. There is potential for it. If Lawler still has to stop, which he might not. I don't think he will actually. He has, what, 16 laps before? I think Lawler might be good here. But that podium is still uncertain. Nope, Lawler will not be good. Lawler does come down pit lane, which puts Samuel Hughes into 3rd position. Adolfo Perez will go up to 4th. And Jan Corbs here will move into 5th place in this race. Corbs now only 8 seconds off of a podium after that meatball flag in the early stages. 10 more minutes left to go. It is Quinton Verdonk leading your overall race. Ryan Stringer leading your LMP2s. Isaac Fairweather leading your GT3s as Gavin Abergast finds himself black flagged yet again. And this is how that one happened. It looks like it might have been on the exit of Stowe. It certainly was. And with that, he immediately came down pit lane to serve that penalty. It looks like he might have done a pit stop, actually, and Abergast might then have to do a drive-through. It looks like he is doing a pit stop there. As Lucas Chatterton has just had an issue, literally about 10 seconds ago. He finds himself spinning at Stowe. He is still holding on to 6th position in class right now, but it is the recovering Aspen Martin, who is now 2 seconds behind Lucas Chatterton. Martin could find herself back into 6th place here. 8 more minutes on the clock as we get towards the end of the first of our rounds here. Of 8 rounds this championship. As we continue to watch it, looks like Perez gets past Hughes as Hughes makes a splash and dash. That's a good point. Perez, it looks like Corbs will make that splash and dash because Perez is going to make that splash and dash. It will still put them behind, I believe, Crooks. Possibly not Lawler, though. Lawler seems to have lost a lot of position there. Crooks gets past Hughes as well. Where's Hughes going to rejoin here? Yes, Hughes is going to rejoin in 7th. So it looks like Jean Corbs, when he does his splash and dash, will be in P7 in this race. As we continue to have just a speculation on some of the racing strategy in this one and see what drivers are able to do with the end of this. I think the earlier choice of coming in and pitting earlier might not have necessarily been the smarter plan for some of our drivers there, as we see Corbs looking to get his way past some of the GTE field there. This is Cosney chasing down Lawler because they have just swapped positions. So Jeffrey Lawler, this is how Lawler was able to get past Cosney for 8th position. A little bit of a splash there. Moves to the left-hand side and does make it through as well. So Jeff Lawler makes it nicely through before the corner's even done. I thought it might have been a bit of a fight through the corner. Certainly was not. As it looks like Julian Daniels is black flagged in the mix of that as well. What happened to Daniels here up towards turn number 1? Moves to the right-hand side. Swings to the left-hand side. Is it an off-track? And a cops. It certainly is for Julian Daniels. And I think we needed I think we needed a penalty counter. Didn't think I needed to mark down how many penalties we were going to get this race, but I think we're about 20 at this point. Lucas Chatterton finds himself spinning around and down to 7th, which promotes Aspen Martin through there up into 6th position. As Lawler continuing to move up the order, it looks like Strobel is trying to get maybe up into 16th past Julian Daniels. Both of those drivers have been having a fair few moments of themselves throughout this race. Only 3 cars, though, have actually 4 cars, I should say, have actually DNF'd for this race. Justin Stanek, Chris Suski, Leon Flukiger and Harry Shaw are the only drivers to find themselves out in this race right now. 32 cars still running, 3 of them LMP1s, the other an LMP2. It has been an evening of ups and downs for a number of our drivers right now as we head into the final 5 minutes of competition. Are we going to see Jean Corbs coming down pit lane, or is he going to be able to coast it just enough to avoid having to do a splash and dash towards the end of this race? We're looking at about, 3 more laps, maybe 4? For our driver here, as Perez loses position. Julian Metzner moves up to 4th because Perez is doing the splash and dash. That will give position to Jimmy Crooks, and as we expected, Samuel Hughes as well. Jeffrey Lawler, though, will he be able to take advantage of this? He certainly will try to, but he won't be able to right this second as Perez comes out. There is about 5 seconds between them. Do you know what? If Corbs was to pit now, he would be under attack from Jeffrey Lawler, but he could potentially hold on to 7th place. It would be extremely close, however, but we will keep an eye on that one right now. The closest fight out there is for P16 as Ryan Stringer, the leader of your LMP2 field, is penalised with 3.5 minutes to go. Luca Gray, who was taken out by an LMP1 over an hour ago, will find his way back to the front of the field because down pit lane comes Ryan Stringer And Luca Gray will inherit the LMP2 Classics race lead. Luca Gray moves back into the lead of this one. Ryan Stringer has an extremely long pit lane, so think about this one. And think about what has just been lost in front of him. Will he lose P3? P2? No, he won't. Jacob Jenner in third. Just comes out through turn number 1 behind there. Julian Daniels loses position to Alexander Strobel. Strobel made that move. This is how that happened. It was helped with the LMP2 as Daniels found his way off track. Strobel found his way up the inside and made that position work, but that is not going to be case closed as Daniels has made his way back through there, up the inside. And Julian Daniels here is going to have to go defensive on Strobel. They are fighting out with just a couple of minutes left to go. In 16th and 17th position here, both will be hoping not to get a penalty. Strobel started his race in 7th, of course. Daniels started his race in 19th. But they come through the Magnussen-Beckett's complex. Alexander Strobel is chasing on behind here. 1.5 minutes on the clock. We're going to get 2 laps to go as we head up towards the end of this lap. Strobel chasing down Julian Daniels. He moves to the inside. There's contact. And he sends Daniels into the GTE. Strobel is penalised. We'll have a penalty in that one. And it was... which one was it? It was Thomas Clausen, who was the innocent party. Caught up in this one. And that is a real shame. And Alexander Strobel will have to find his way down pit lane to serve that penalty. Thomas Clausen getting a penalty on pit entrance due to an unsafe pit entrance. Strobel calls it quits on the penultimate lap of asking. Verdonk here has 30 seconds on the board to take it to 55 laps. Clausen has to serve that penalty before he is able to make it back out again and to fix that car. He will have. It looks like he may have already had his quick repair in this one. 8 seconds on the board here. Are we going to tick across to 55? We certainly will. Quentin Verdonk goes on to the white flag lap with seconds to spare. He could have backed out and stopped at 54. But he goes for another one. Thomas has served that penalty now. Will he be able to fix his car in time to get one additional lap out? Matthew Jolly has gone off. What has happened to Jolly? It looks like he's out of fuel, actually. Matthew Jolly was out of fuel. Jolly's down and out, which means Riley Bode finds himself up in 4th position here. After that earlier incident, and the podium's almost what we saw earlier on. Jacob Jenner is the only driver that's made that difference. In fact, Jenner is going to get past Ryan Stringer, who goes off. What's happened to Stringer, who's now lost position? It's contact with the LMP1. It's contact with the LMP1 there. They send Stringer with a meeple flag. He can get it to the end, but contact from behind. And that will be it. Jacob Jenner has had issues as well. Jacob Jenner spins himself, but will hold on as Riley Bode gets onto the podium. And Aspen Martin is in P4. Ryan Stringer is going to be out. Lucas Chatterton has a penalty. This has gone all sorts of wrong, but Quentin Verdonk wins the LMP1 field from 6th on the grid. and the ever-changing LMP2 field. Luca Gray is going to be the man that somehow comes out on top of it with all of the positions behind changing. Luca Gray is going to take it on the line. Jan Korbs gets Julian Metzner on the line. Because Metzner tried a last lap move, an absolute send. Contact between them. But Korbs holds on. It is going to be Isaac Fairweather who will take the checkered flag in the GTE field, but only 7 seconds clear of Beresville, who had the penalty. Remember, he had to stop for an unsafe pit entry from Beresville. Lots of positions changing here as last lap penalties are being applied and drivers are being dropped. And I look here, Tony Dibden across the line was close between himself and Clausen here. What happened in their fight towards the line? Tony Dibden chasing down Travis Clausen. Clausen was off. Dibden looked to the inside line. It was side by side between the two of them. Dibden had speed on the exit. It'll be to the inside for Clausen. It's a drag race to the line. Bumping and banging. But Travis Clausen beating Dibden by 1/100th of a second. And I mean, that is a incredibly close finish when you think that we have just been racing for an hour and a half. What a fantastic race that was. What a great win from our 3 different race winners in each of those classes. But what a result, and some great recovery drives throughout each of the fields there. Let's see what our results are then for each of our 3 classes in the end. As it was in your LMP1 field, a win from Quinton Verdonk. He was 6th on the grid. He won the race for Vulcan Motorsports, 16 seconds clear of Nicholas Kingswell, who came home in 2nd. Jan Korbs, who had some major issues on the opening laps of the race, managed to recover for 3rd place. Had a Julian Metzner, who came home in P number 4. Jimmy Crooks came home in 5th in the end. Sam Hughes crossed the line in 6th position, just ahead of Adolfo Perez. Then it was Sovne in 8th position, who came home there ahead of Jeffrey Lawler. Lawler, of course, leading the majority of the race. Multiple penalties meant that he finished in 9th. And it was Ben Massey, a lap down, who rounded out your top 10 in the LMP1 field. James Smaggersgale came home in 11th, ahead of Travis Clausen and Tony Dibden. Those two across the line, of course, just separated by 1/100th of a second. Dominic Gallo came home in 14th, ahead of Gavin Abegast. And then it was Alexander Strobel 5 laps down. We saw him pull over towards the end, along with Julian Daniels, who finished 6 laps down. Michael Abasek was 11 laps down and out of the race, as was Justin Sidonek, 20 laps down. Leon Flukengo, we lost him early on, 30 laps down in that one. At the back of the field was Harry Shaw and Niccolo Monti, both of those down very quickly. Monti out on the opening lap of asking. We then have a look at our LMP2 Classic field, and that was Luca Gray at the front of that one. He took the win in the end due to multiple issues that LMP2 field was constantly changing and battling throughout, but it was Gray who came out on top, 30 seconds clear. Jacob Jenner came home out of nowhere to take home 2nd position. Riley Pogue recovered for 3rd place. Ryan Stringer finished the lap down in the end, but did take 4th position, and Aspen Martin crossed the line in 5th place in the end. In fact, I'm looking over at the right-hand side here, and it's showing different positions on my timing screen. We'll go with these as the race results, though. Matthew Jolly came across the line in 6th ahead of Lucas Chatterton in 7th position. Ivan Taranov came down home 2 laps down, and it was Chris Suski 18 laps behind in the end for them. Then we will have a look at our GTE field. It was all plain sailing for the GTEs up until about 15 minutes to go in that one. And Barrisville losing out in his pit stop, but then multiple issues, including penalties for various drivers, cars going around. It meant in the end only 6 seconds separating Isaac Fairweather from Philip Barrisville, and it was Callan Shepherd who rounded out your podium in your GTE field. They were the only 3 drivers on the lead lap in your GTE field. Andy Bootland then came home in 4th. Mauricio Marquez, Ramos and Thomas Corso in both those 2 laps down, and Luca Monroe was out so early doors, in fact, that he was never shown on our classification screens, as Monroe did not get the race started, unfortunately for him, after trying to get some laps in qualifying. What a race that has been then, and we have got a number of drivers that we are going to talk to out of this one, because it has been an absolutely fantastic evening of racing, and we want to find out how it went for each of our drivers, and we will start down in our GTE field with this one, and we will be talking to the man who was leading for most of the way, but unfortunately for Barriswell, it wasn't enough to take the victory. The penalty coming down pit lane, but what would have been an uneventful race, it turned out to be one that almost came back your way. Philip, how was your evening out there today?
Yeah, well, I mean, insane pit entry there. Giga, I would say. Yeah, well, it happens. Yeah, what should I say? The pace was good. Strategy was on point. Yeah, just the pit lane entry.
Well, that pit lane entry made it meant that you fell down. Of course, there was a long penalty, and you still managed to come back within about 6 seconds. Of course, it was quite good to see that the LMP1s, the LMP2s weren't impacting the GTEs too much out there. But it did look like it was very much a lonesome race. 90 minutes there with the 6 cars. It's spread out quite early on. But we've got some much tighter tracks coming up in this calendar as well. How are you feeling about the upcoming championship?
Yeah, well, for me, the first race was really fun, and I think the following races will also be extremely fun. I would hope to get some more GTE competitors. With only, how many cars did we have today? 7, I think. Yeah, could be a bit more. But apart from that, it's they are giga to drive, so they really make fun. You don't drive them a lot nowadays, or basically not anymore. So it's really fun to have at least a series to drive them again.
It certainly is nice to have them out there once again, as you say, and it will be nice to see how they go in this series. Of course, it could have been a win, but it's second place. Good points on the board in class, though, and hopefully it'll go similarly for you in future races with some strong results.
Exactly.
All right, Philip Barriswell there, who came home in class in P number 2 after a little bit of issue with that pit lane. He said, of course, the only issue he had out there was that penalty. So it'll be interesting to see how he could do in the future rounds, as well as we just have a look at who we are going to bring in next into this commentary booth and see what they are going out there. As we just try to find out who some of these nicknames are, so I can see who I'm going to be talking to. We will then go across to one of our drivers that sort of appeared out of nowhere towards the end of that one, taking advantage of some drivers' issues there. Jacob Jenner coming home in P number 2 in the LMP2 field, and I mean, that podium was not on early doors there, but the endurance aspect of it, 90 minutes, it came your way.
Yeah, definitely. It was a bit carnage, to be honest, because I started quali well, I started practice and got 20 frames a second. So I've rebooted my PC 4 times, changed all my computer settings to try actually get any frames, and then realized I didn't have a setup. So I started quali with default setup. Then at the end of quali, tried to find a setup. Found one, but it failed tech, so I tried to fix it, couldn't fix it, and then it was just carnage.
Wow, a really strange qualifying session for you then, but it did turn into something in the end. You sort of found yourself in the middle of nowhere, but the cars in front of you were just dropping like flies. It was a mixture, of course, the 3 classes. How was it, though, getting back in these HPDs in the LMP2 Classic class? They look like a lot of fun out there.
Honestly, might be my favourite prototype on the game at the moment. It's just, you've got quite a lot of grip, got the TC, you just get planted and you can get away very nicely. But yeah, it was pretty carnage. A lot of people fell short towards the end. I kind of thought maybe P5 was attainable, and then all of a sudden I was P2, and I just couldn't believe it, to be honest.
It was a strong result for you for the start of the championship in the end then, with those benefits. How do you feel it's going to be coming up? We've got a nice calendar ahead of us. We've got some great tracks. Of course, we go to Spa and Le Mans in the next couple of rounds. Do you think that you're going to be able to find your way towards the front there if you load a setup on and get yourself some proper lap times in?
Yeah, I definitely think with a little bit more prep, being able to actually run my computer without it exploding and having a setup, I think I have a chance to definitely be fighting for podiums. Not really looking at the wins. I mean, I think I got quite lucky today to be P2, and I think a win was definitely off the cards for most of the race. But yeah, I definitely think fighting for the top 3 could definitely be obtainable.
Well, it will be interesting to see how far up the order you can get in future races then, because you really did benefit from others' mistakes just by keeping out of those instants. And as I say, in 90-minute races, that's exactly what you want to do. So we wish you best of luck for the future, and congratulations on a podium here in the first race of the season.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
Jacob Jenner there, coming home in the end, second in class. A great result for him, as we will now jump our way across back to, well, we'll stay with the MP2 class, actually. In fact, we'll talk to a man who had, I would say, one of the biggest ups and downs of the entire evening in the LMP2 field, from going into the lead to being knocked out of the lead to P4, somehow finding your way all the way in the end back to a race lead. Luca Gray, talk us through the 90 minutes of Silverstone.
I don't even know where to start, to be honest. There's a lot of words that can be said about a certain car class that you probably can guess what can be said. And it will probably get me banned from the Discord.
Well, we will let those comments just float in the air. They won't need to be said. Of course, it was just contact through cops that sent you off from the race lead initially. What was a 4-car fight between yourself, Riley, you had Aspen, you had Ryan there as well. It was a great start to the race. Everyone sort of had their own issues as it went through, though. And somehow, by the end of it, you were promoted back into the race lead. Did you ever expect that, with all the issues that were going on for you?
Not until I finished across the line in first, no. Because I don't know how I got back into the lead, because there's multiple times when I thought I was going to go straight into the barrier. Multiple times. I was on 24x for the last 10 or so laps, trying to push to try and catch the lead, and then eventually, I can't remember who it was. I think it was Ryan who got a drive-through in the end. And
it was indeed,
it home.
It was, and it was, I think that's the way that it changed. It was a lot of penalties that went out today, and I was counting, I think I got to at least 30 penalties that were applied across the whole evening, which means that not only did you have then car classes to fight against, you also had your own driving styles to fight against, seeing what sort of track limits you could keep them inside. So how do you feel going forward? We've got circuits where track limits are a little bit more lenient. You've got Le Mans. Obviously then circuits where you can't run off the track with Nürburgring. How do you feel like those races might go?
I'm confident because I know this car very well. I'm usually very quick in it whenever I hop in a Proto GT race, and I've got confidence in me and the car, so hopefully I can keep going with like this.
Well then, we wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season, Luca. Congratulations on the LMP2 Classic Class win. And we'll see if you're able to find your way back up there again at any other point this season.
Cheers, thank you.
Luca, great there. Coming home to win the LMP2 field. We will pull in a few more drivers as we have discussions here, as I still do not fully understand who one of our drivers are in there, so I cannot pull them through, unfortunately. But we will talk to another man in the LMP2 class that we were talking about there. Another driver that was in the fight for the lead of the LMP2 field. It was up and down, and in the end, it was down. Ryan Stringer getting a penalty towards the end of that one, costing a race victory. But it was fights all evening long for you, Ryan. How did you find it?
Oh, yeah. I was really enjoying my race until getting rear-ended by LMP1s. So yeah, it was great.
Well, yeah, it was unfortunate for you. We saw the incident, of course, that sent you off into the barrier with the meatball flag, which cost you a lot of time. And we also saw a lot of other issues going across throughout the evening. But let's fly back all the way to the beginning, because there was 4 cars all fighting out for the first half hour of the race, just going at it. How are you finding that? Because you had the GTEs to navigate, you had the LMP1s navigating you, and in some cars that haven't been driven in the service for a very long time.
I mean, it was really nice actually. It was really enjoyable. I wasn't really pushing at the start. I was just kind of keeping it easy because the car was a bit like sketchy at the start. But once I got the gap through, I think Luca and I can't remember the other driver was. They had a bit of coming together with an LMP1. I just slung through, and that was it. Just carrying on driving the way I was, and I somehow pulled a 10-second gap until I binned it.
Yeah, which is a real shame that that's how it turned out. However, you did show some really strong pace around here. So we've got some good tracks coming up, of course. We've got going to Spa and Le Mans next. How are you feeling about the upcoming calendar? Do you think it's the track where we will see you back towards the front in the LMP2s? Or do you think it's one where it could be up and down for a lot of people?
I don't know. The setup that I ran was finished off about 20 minutes before the qualifying started. So yeah, it was a bit of a late lunge, getting the car as good as we could. But yeah, I think with a bit more time now and focus on Spa and Le Mans, it's going to be more stable for me. And I mean, the pace that I had all race, I think I led. I think about 85% of that race. So yeah, my drive was good, but just yeah, that final corner, second to last corner, I just come out of Hangar Straight, just getting sent down the inside by the LMP1. Just yeah, it just sent me off into the wall, and then meatball, and I just lost the back end in the final corner, put me in the wall. So yeah, I think Spa's gonna be another interesting track. I feel like I'm going to be quite good there.
Well, it'll be an interesting one for sure. It's quite a long track, of course, which means that you won't be seeing the LMP1s or the GTEs as much, but it should be one in which you're able to go out properly fighting once more with everyone. So we should see another good set of racing. But for the rest of the season, Ryan, we wish you the best of luck here, and we look forward to talking to you again in future rounds.
Thank you very much, Joe. And I will see you, hopefully, in interview next week. 2 weeks' time.
Indeed. We'll see you next time, hopefully, Ryan. Okay, then. Well, that was Ryan Stringer. He came home 6th in class in the end. finding himself into the wall towards the end of that one. As we have a look, and it looks like we've got James Smaggersgale we'll have a little word with. We saw him running around in the LMP1 field, and it's the only class we've not got to talk to so far this evening. So let's find how it was from the perspective of an LMP1 machine. We had the GTEs out there, the classic LMP2s. How was it for you running around trying to get your LMP1 through the field around Silverstone?
Not bad, to be fair. Not bad. I mean, I didn't have the greatest of pace. I did loads of practice, I swear, for this race. Yeah, been at work all day, and then yeah, jumped straight on the sim pretty much to halfway through practice. But no, it was good fun. It was good to see a decent turnout as well for the opening round of it, and yeah, seemed like a good race.
You ended up coming home in P number 11. I think that was probably higher than you were expecting. A lot of issues for other drivers, lots of penalties being dished out here. How did you find that? Were you worried about getting penalties yourself with seeing so many cars coming down pit lane?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was extra cautious with the pit entry, but other than that, yeah, there was a lot of X's. Because 25x is a fair amount, but at Silverstone, that's actually probably not that much. There's a lot of places around this track where you can pick up an X for track limits, or if you've been hit, of course, being a multi-class series, you've hit someone as a fast class from more my perspective, or you just someone miscalculates a little gap or something. So yeah, a couple 4x's, but no, other than that, I did alright. I think I did finish about 4x off of a drive-through, but yeah, not too bad. And then yeah, maybe there's some more penalties coming the way of some people in front of me. We'll have to see after the post-race stewards and stuff is done. But yeah, no, I was sat in 11th for basically the entire race, I think. So yeah, I'm happy with 11th though.
It is a interesting way to move your way up, of course, is taking advantage of other people's. But in a 90-minute race, is exactly what you want to do. It is a longer race, so therefore taking the opportunities from the mistakes of others finds your way up the order. Do you think that's how you're going to find those positions in future races, or do you think you're going to be able to get there on track? We've got a good selection of tracks coming up, a mixture of tracks. Do you have any that you think I could have an opportunity to get a strong result here?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe have some more pace in the future. But yeah, I mean, I just need to do more practice, really, that's all. I think that's where I lacked with this one. But yeah, and also I think I just need to learn a bit more about where I need to use the boost in these cars. I kind of struggled with that. I had a lot of battles with different people using their boost in different places. So yeah, we'll see, and yeah, hopefully some even better results in the future.
Excellent. Well, we shall see, and hopefully we'll be pulling you in for some great results in some future races. Good luck for the rest of the season, James, and we'll speak again soon.
Thank you. You too. Cheers.
James Magglesgale there, coming home in P number 11, and we'll finally bring in our final interviewee of the evening. It was the man who took full advantage of the penalty given to Beresville, Isaac Fairweather, who ended up coming home as a race victor in the GTE field, 6 seconds ahead of Beresville. It was looking like a lonely race out there, Isaac, for you, looking like one that it might have come down in P number 2, but you took home that first place in the end. How was this evening's race for you?
I'll be honest, I was watching Star Wars: The Clone Wars on my top monitor for most of it. I was not focused.
It did look a bit empty out there for you. You had a lot of drivers heading past in the faster classes, of course, and then towards the end, we started to see a lot of the GTE starting to get caught up or in the way of the LMP1s and the LMP2 fights. Were you worried at any point that you might have been collected in one of those and have to find your way down pit lane to repair, like we did see from Thomas Clausen inside the GTE field, or were you pretty content with the way that you were running?
Well, if you go to my lap 38, you can see me get murdered, brutally executed, some might say, by an LMP1. So I wouldn't say I was concerned. I would say I was taken out by one.
I do not know if we caught that one on the broadcast or not. So much was going on in that one. I do apologise. But if we did, then it means that you were able to come back, of course. The fact that we do have those fast repairs, it really helps out. So how are you feeling about the future races? Now that you've taken a win in the first round, we head across to Spa, Le Mans, Nürburgring up until the halfway point on the season. Are you thinking that you can find your way back towards the front there on pace and see a fight on track with Beresville or some other drivers? Do you think it's going to be about just keeping it together in the long run?
Well, I think over the course of the season, I think if he's going to gap me by like a 1.2 seconds every quali, then it might be a different story. If he practices his pit entries and doesn't mess them up in the race, then he'll definitely win a couple more rounds, but I think it could be a good battle.
Wow, I am looking forward to seeing it and definitely seeing more of the GTEs out there and fighting it wheel to wheel. Good luck for the rest of the season, Isaac, and congratulations on taking a win in the first round of the season.
Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
You as well. Isaac Fairweather there, coming home as race winner in the GTE field. And we are going to say here goodbye to you all from the wonderful Joseph Wright broadcasting commentary booth here as we broadcast for the Aztec Racing League's WEC Classic for the first season of competition here. Round number 1 is done. We have 7 more rounds to go. We will be back out on March 14th for Spa Francorchamps in a couple of weeks' time. So make sure that if you are watching over on the YouTube channel, that you are hitting that subscribe button. You've hit that thumbs up as well to show your support for this series. And if you are watching over on the Joseph Wright TV's Twitch channel, then make sure that you are hitting that follow button over there, as this is the end of the 3rd broadcast in our Super Weekend. We've got 3 more broadcasts to go all tomorrow. So make sure you hit that follow button over on the Twitch and you will catch them all. Here, though, in the broadcast booth, it is time to say goodbye. We will see you on March 14th for round number 2 as we head off to Spa. It is going to be absolutely great once again. It was a great evening of racing out there for all of our drivers. To watch it from here it was absolutely brilliant, and we cannot wait to bring you more. So until round number 2, I hope you have a fantastic evening, a fantastic week, and in 2 weeks' time we will be back for the 2nd round of competition. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.